Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Niraj Shah. Well, what happened overnight is the important thing: jobs, jobs, and more jobs. Everybody's talking about that. Now, U.S. private sector companies added 497,000 jobs in June, according to payroll processing firm ADP. Now, this is two times the estimates of Dow Jones. That's the key thing. Now, today, as a result of which, the last line, what happened? US VIX gained the most since March and bond yields spiked. Now, today, Labor Department's non-farm payroll data, which is the official report, will be out. Economists expect a 2.4 lakh rise in payrolls and an unemployment rate of 3.6%. No, let's stick with the previous plate, please. Yes, let's stick with this. So economists expect a 240,000 rise in payrolls and an unemployment rate of 3.6%. Now, if this were to happen, then it will only strengthen the belief that the US economy is red hot. The rate hikes are not having an impact thus far, and the Fed is will be okay in its assessment of going ahead and raising rates. And I think that is the fear that spooked the markets yesterday. Now, when I say spooked, it's just about a percent. The US markets will come up on your screen next. They didn't go up too much. It was about a percent. Rather, they didn't go down too much. It's about a percent. Dow Jones 1% lower, Nasdaq in fact 0.8% lower. But if the non-farm payroll data as well, in addition to the private sector companies' data, is quote unquote hawkish, then it may have an impact. Now look at what happened to the other Qs. Uh, the 10-year yield at 4.04. That's a big move, right? It was at 3.94 yesterday, 3.87 day before. So it's creeping up very swiftly. Volatility inched up as well. Dollars was steady. The other news, I mean, it was not just US markets, by the way. On this US data, European stocks closed down 2.4% as well. And then in the news, of course, um, maybe a price truce for Tesla and Threads, which is the Meta competition to Twitter, passed 30 million signups overnight. So lots happening out there. But more importantly, equity markets have a slightly skittish period ahead, I reckon. The SGX Nifty could be showing that too. We should get the SGX or the GIFT Nifty, excuse me for that. For now, it's trading flat. Let's just wait and watch if it continues in that fashion or do we have a cut. Now, my sense is, and I may be wrong here, but I believe that the US jobs report will have a meaningful implication on nervous US stocks if it is hawkish. And therefore, if the Indian markets, if they don't start off skittish, which I believe they could, but even if they don't, but if they move down during the course of the day, I don't think bottom buying is advisable, to be honest, on an index level, simply because this data might have a big impact on markets, US markets tonight, and on Asian markets on Monday. So be careful and choosy before you kind try and think of what's to be done. Now, as taking a look at what brokerages are saying with regards to results or dealing rooms are talking with regards to sectors to buy in, and I think CV companies, agri players are now being looked at ahead of the results. Day before yesterday, we were talking about FMCG. FMCG index, by the way, lost out a bit yesterday. Real estate did well, but I still believe FMCG is that sector that everybody's looking at from an earnings perspective. And in addition to that, selectively, companies in the commercial vehicle space, companies in the agri space, even commercial vehicle uh, auto comps. We saw Jamna Auto, for example, very active yesterday or day before. So all of that is to be kept in mind. Uh, FI is bought, and that's a bit of a relief that the foreign flows continue 2,641 crores, which is not a bad sign at all. And DII sold about well 2,351 crores. So that's the other aspect to be kept in mind, that the flows continue, but DIs consistently have been chipping away some of the profits. In this landscape, what are the stocks to watch? So the last 5 days, we've seen some substantial open interest increase in select stocks. So for iShares, massive OI buildup, 10% correction. Fundamentally, could there be more if the market share loss perception is more on Royal Enfield? Then yes, there could be more, because not just earnings damage, it's also multiple damage. but there's a lot of short position out there. Don't be surprised if at some point of time there is a bit of profit booking also that happens. Vice versa on IOC and HPCL, massive OI build up the last few days and a good price action too. Again, could it be overdone or can there be more? Is the limited question. Well, if indeed the belief is that the more money is coming in from the government side on rights issue or otherwise, then maybe some of these prices could sustain. So let's wait and watch. And MCX, for all its losses, has actually recouped them. So you're seeing this large OI change, but no price movement. But within that, underneath the hood, there has been substantial price movement for MCX as well. But watch out for OMCs in particular, I reckon. Excuse me. Then, splendid update from Titan. Um, Standalone revenue grew about 20%, led by robust demand. Jewelry sales up 21% with 18 new stores added in Q1. Watches and wearables grew 13%, driven by premium brands. And eye care division saw sales growth of about 10% with 7 new stores added. The key is, viewers, are two things to keep in mind. One, that Titan has had this really strong update on a high base. The base for Titan is not a small one, it's a meaningful one. But people who are constructive on Titan, and I mean, there are many people out there, but I distinctly remember the research head of Motilal Oswal, right, talking about this. Just the scale of penetration that organized jewelry could do is so large. It's possible that the runway for growth is very longer. Keep in mind for Titan, this quarter was an extended earning season, extended wedding season, and yes, an earning season too, but an extended wedding season. This next two Q2 will not necessarily be the same one. If anything, the festivals are getting have gotten pushed a bit, right, this year. Diwali is straight away in November, so therefore Q2 will not necessarily have the same kind of um, charisma that Q1 has had. Be mindful of that. I think the commentary from Mr. Venkatraman would be important when we talk to him after the results are out. But he said that it's a strong, solid update from the market leader. Not as much a luck for Dabur, to be very honest. Let's move on to that stock. Um, Consolidated business expected to register growth of over 10%. That's okay. Healthcare, double-digit growth, mid-single-digit volume growth, though. The key is this: food and beverages business had a muted quarter as summer-centric portfolio impact gotten impacted due to unseasonal rains and a moderate summer. Now, this may have implications for all businesses which have got a food and beverages business. Mind you, there are a clutch of FMCG names out there, from a snacking company to consolidated companies which have got a fairly large foods business. Because especially if there is a summer centric portfolio, then it would have probably gotten impacted. There are some fairly expensive names in that list, some of which have done really well in the recent past as well. Be mindful of that. Only for this quarter, but just be mindful of that. Also, be mindful of what happens to cooling solution companies. And in fact, if you want a deeper insight there, I just did an interview with Achal Bakeri of Symphony from their office. It played out this week on BQ Prime. You might want to hear, because the man knows the industry inside out. He's given some really good perspective on what could happen to cooling solution. Davar, of course, goes on to say that the reduction in inflation will lead to year-on-year gross margin expansion, but they've also said that the net profit expansion will not be as strong as gross margin expand or gross profit will be in line with what the revenue is. So, ho hum from Dabur, ho hum from Tata Steel as well. And remember, in metals, the reason why these Q1 updates may not necessarily hold as much merit is because for a lot of metal companies, the price of the inputs and the price of the eventual output, both of them have varied so much that it's kind of difficult. And to pencil in what could happen to eventual earnings. And I'm saying this because I saw two or three notes, preview notes, fairly fairly disparate assessments of what could happen in the quarter. So be careful if you're trading the metal stocks, even ferrous metal stocks. It's a bit difficult to trade them, I would reckon. Soba, now the statements are interesting. Highest ever quarterly sale value, uh, growth of 27.9%, highest ever price realization, uh, a total saleable area of 13.94 lakh square feet. But look at the sales volume at 13 lakh square feet, it's a growth of 2.6%. I was reading a research note from Omkara Capital, and there they mentioned that the CAGR numbers for the last 4 years is about 4%, 4.5% of their balance. So volume numbers don't look that impressive, but they've gotten price realization uptake, and therefore strong growth. 37.9% is nothing to scoff at. People might like this too. Let's wait and watch. Raj, that's an interesting announcement. The company and Indian Oil Corporation have signed a term sheet to advance plans to strengthen the biofuels production capabilities. Watch out for Praj. Watch out for ARS Life Sciences. HDFC Mutual Fund bought about 20.25 lakh shares, 1.5% at about 697 apiece. And Suzlon, the board will meet today for a fundraise, and I think all eyes will be out on Suzlon simply because just judging by how the price has moved, they must be getting some marquee investors on board. Is what Grapevine tells me. Is what simple back of the envelope uh, thoughts tell me. Could be completely wrong, right? Could be completely wrong. So let's not preempt. But yes, there is a board meet today for the fundraise. Would be interesting to see what the announcement comes in. So be mindful of that. And a view on, okay, there are some queries. View on medical equipment sector and government policy on the same. I'm sorry, but not quite equipped to do that. What I'll do, Anand Joshi, is that I'll tell my colleague Hiral, who she does a show at 11 a.m. with a fundamental guest, and we'll try and include this query um, for this. So I'll pass on this thing to as well. Virat, can we ensure that we make sure that our viewers' query get answered, if not on our segment, then at least on the 11 a.m. show. So let's try and do that. Mr. Joshi, request you to try and get the answer there. Hopefully, the guests would have better answers. I'm afraid I have not read any report with regards to this recently, and that's why it's difficult to say. Diagnostics, yes, we've spoken to a bunch of people, but medical equipment haven't quite spoken to too many people. So afraid I won't be able to help you on that. One thing for everybody who wants some keen insights on multiple things around markets. A mega event from BQ Prime at the Trident BKC, the India Opportunity Event. We're doing 3 or 4 conversations. They will be there on BQ Prime. If you're an NATV subscriber or a watcher on television, we're on NATV as well. And if you're a BQ Prime subscriber, you can write in. I think the details will be out. A few people will be given the chance to come in as well. Were chosen by the team per se. Depend, I think early birds or so be it. So please try and do it. And please excuse me if you've written and there is not, been the right response. It's a whole team that is looking behind it, so it's not entirely in my control. No, but let's just please go to the first event. I'll just take a moment to describe what you will get here at the event, but all of it will be there on BQ Prime, so you don't not necessarily travel to Mumbai. But we'll talk with Niraj Shah, Saurabh Mukherjee, and Sunil Singhania for envisaging how big the opportunity, the India opportunity is. How are they thinking about this opportunity? Because everybody's talking about India, right? We'll try and talk about that. Now, everybody's talking about capex as being the key driver. One company that benefits tremendously from that is ABB. A veteran investor who looks at this very, very closely is Mr. Madhusudan Kela. We get both of them in a conversation to try and envisage how big and how deep can this capex drive be. It'll be a stunning conversation. Then we get in 2 large money managers to talk about how they're looking at mega trends and how do they invest there. So S. Narain and Sailesh Rajban try and talk about that. And lastly, you heard from so many people that chati badi honi chahiye. How do you bet big? Well, what we thought is that we'll get in Ramdev Agarwal and Manish Chokhani to understand from them that when they take large bets, how do they muster up the courage to make those large bets? So that is something that will come up as the fourth part of this conversation on this event. It is from 5 p.m. onwards, but it'll be there on BQ Prime on 13th, on 14th, and throughout the weekend. So don't worry, you won't miss anything. But yes, it'd be lovely to make it interactive. So even if it's playing out, we'd love to get your comments around the event as well. It's our first mega event of sorts ahead of our television launch. So uh, we wish that you wish us well for this endeavor. We'll try and get you all the best voices around this event and otherwise on BQ Prime, of course. Today, talking point, Jinesh Gopani of Axis would be joining in to talk about his thoughts on how they are seeing equity markets from the current lens. Of course, the normal conversations. Kaustubh Pavaskar of Sharekhan talks about FMCG, and of course, Vinay Rajani of HDFC Johnson at Trade Talk as well. So, thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup today. And if you don't catch me on Talking Point, I'll see you with Trade Setup on Monday morning.